What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you are doing well. And in this video, we're going to talk about the massive week ahead of us. And of course, this is going to impact our bags one way or another. Pay attention to the video, smash a like, and let's dive into it. So Thursday promises to be a highly volatile day. We have a potential decision from the Bank of Japan on its interest rates. Now, this is going to be absolutely huge. And I'll tell you the specific impact that this headline is going to cause as we continue in this video. So make sure you obviously watch the video and of course take notes where you need to, because this is going to be incredibly beneficial to you. So let's start off this week. No major news events today, but Tuesday lines up all the ducks in one row. We are expecting to have the key NFP data. Now, this is going to be a sign of what Jerome Powell was concerned about, and I think it's going to be super important. Then we have retail sales to gauge the economy. Then we have PMI. Now, this is extremely rare release, all for Tuesday. So I caution, if any of you are trading, be very careful and expect high volatility at market opens. That goes without saying. Nothing happening on Wednesday. However, Thursday is a different story altogether. So on Thursday, what we have is CPI data. Okay, this is a core event. This is highly volatile and of course, very impactful economic news. So pay attention to this one, because it will be, especially if you are trading. If you're spot buying as well, just make sure you avoid, buying FOMO in or anything like that. Just keep in stables, keep it sweet, of course. And if you are trading, risk less. Then we have the Coinbase event. Now, the biggest event outside of these two monumental data releases is the Bank of Japan. And I have actually broken down this in the VIP Discord. However, crypto bros obviously haven't caught on to this event. And what they will do is obviously they will just amplify the fear. But let's have a look at what happened historically. Now, if we pull up a chart of Bitcoin, what we can do is, if we go to the weekly and we scroll back to a key date here on the chart, which is August. If we go back to 2024 and we go about here, right? We had a crazy August. Now, when you consider the dip, which is this candle here, July, and then we had that August dip, absolutely there. This was the Japanese carry trade fears there, and Bitcoin dropped it dropped a decent amount. So if you look at the first initial red candle over here, when you consider that to a 2 weekly candle, and this was around this was about a 30% dip in this candle, 27% dip. And people are speculating, will this event absolutely cook us once again? Now, at the time, what you need to realize is a couple of things. In order to manage the fear, you always have to look beyond what the headline is and see what they did. So the first key thing was, at the moment, we are expecting the Japanese central bank, or the Bank of Japan, some people call it the BOJ, to obviously hike rates by 25 basis points. Okay. And of course, a poll came in expecting 90% of the participants predicting rates to go to 0.75 from 0.5. Now, of course, this gives us an opportunity to see what the central bank is doing. And they've said, obviously, they are evaluating and monitoring the situation. Nobody actually, is concerned overall. However, this could be an event that the market makers use naturally and sell the news as always, or of course, sell the fear in this case. So what's the fallout really? I mean, we know what they're doing, but if we look back at 2024, we did have a Bitcoin drop to, from this point here in August, it dropped about 20, you could see there, it dropped around 28% in that single 2 week period. And if I show you here, it really actually, we had this candle here and then we really dropped from there all the way to here. So again, just to give you clarity of why this was a key event, that is exactly what Bitcoin did, and then moved off the moving average there, 27.53% drop in a 2-week period. And of course, even if you single that out to a single candle, still a pretty massive drop. So will this happen again? Now, there are two theories right now. There is clearly a problem here. So for those of you who don't actually understand how it works, it's basically the yen becomes more expensive. And if you look at the traditional way it works, the loans will be more expensive to pay back. Now, what I've done here is, since the loans are paid in yen, right? The loans are paid back in yen. So an interest rate hike, what it does is the loans become more expensive. And then the markets become more illiquid, and they require more injections. And of course, ultimately, we come out with higher global liquidity. Now, the Fed is obviously doing the opposite, and they are doing quantitative easing. But if we look back at what happened on the August drop, we saw a hike of 0.25%. Stock globally sold off. There is a 1.7 trillion problem. Like we said, a study from the Bank of International Settlement estimates that carry trade measured 1.7 trillion, and they acknowledge this is likely to be understated since many positions use private contracts. Stock markets across Asia, US, Europe, everything fell down, and we had that Black Monday in August where everything just fell off. Now, if we're calling for a 30% drop to Bitcoin, then what we need to do is to understand what happened in the recent announcement by the BOJ on the 30th of July, which is when some of these surveys were taking place. And if you look back, this particular date, not the 30th of July, 30th of November, right, 2025, if we go on our chart here and we come all the way to last month, you saw a massive amount of sell-off, and this was exactly when that happened. You could see the candle right there. So if we highlight this candle, the market was absolutely in free fall. And let's just make this a little bit smaller for us. And we see here from that rise here, we printed a massive red candle here, and of course that market crashed further in that particular week. So from the 17th, we saw this. All this price action here was possibly around the time during the announcement by the Bank of Japan. So this is going to be the yen gains ahead of BOJ meeting. Of course, it's going to be a massive week. Like I said, expect volatility. There are several things happening within the market, several massive things. There is actually a plus here. Quarterly, Tank Can survey shows a slight improvement as BOJ weighs its rate hike. So, not everything is going to go the same way. What I'm expecting is, if you look at my analysis here, going by the recent dips in the market, it could be different this time. Why? Because while the impact was more shocking back in August 2024, it was the first time it happened in a while. However, the market has now had about well over 2 weeks to price this in. And again, we may see a softer impact. We may even trade sideways. I'm only making an intelligent analysis of the situation, but I don't think it would be a 30% drop like we saw in August 2024. Now, in addition to that, you've got to have this in mind as well. Sell-off in AI stock erases months of gains as top funds rotate of what they call selling out of tech. Okay. Now, this is a seasonal impact news, in my opinion. However, it's something that you need to watch out, because any retracement of the stock market, as expected sometime in early 2026, could cause